Welcome, everyone. Oh, again, the title. Aaron, introduce.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to this round three recap of the final refrain. We got Lord Judo and myself here to go through what happened in our quarterfinals this week.
Yeah, and quite a bit happened. Not as much as the week before, obviously, because the matches keep
Yeah,
slowing down a little bit. So after this, we only have 3 matches left. Kind of sad,
yeah, it's
actually.
pretty crazy.
Yeah,
It is sad, and it's like, I mean, we kind of knew going in that this would happen, but we're starting to feel it
yeah,
now, where it's like we're just waiting for the next match to
yeah,
happen,
exactly. Yeah,
which we want to give them time to schedule because there's a lot of juggling,
yeah,
different time zones and stuff. But
yeah. We don't want to condense it too much. I see, Harmed is in there. Matze versus Harmed. Yeah, Martin later so sad that the tournament's almost done, or happy, who knows?
there's a few people that might be happy it's
Yeah.
almost over.
Oh, this one.
Oh,
Right. So, what do we have in store for tonight? These recaps will probably become shorter every time.
yep.
We'll go over the bracket again, all round 3 matches, the resulting matchups, aka the semifinals, some set statistics and predictions, the team statistics, and some trivia. The trivia is
Mm.
brought to you by Snoopy. We've been saving all these game logs, and it's given us some interesting facts and data, and we want to bring some of that to you guys. Maybe a little bit of interactivity there, and we'll go to the new bracket. Um,
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I don't even know some of the trivia, so
yeah, so that's great. So that's at least there's interaction between us. Maybe in the chat,
yeah.
people have an idea. Um, so this is what we started with: 32 top players. Um, then we went down to 16. So sad
And
to
just
see.
the amount of amazing players
Yeah,
knocked out every round of this is it's crazy.
it's crazy, right? Yeah. Then we were down to 8, and after this presentation, we'll be down to 4. Um,
Hmm.
yeah. So let's start with we'll go again from top left, top right, bottom right, and after every 2 matches, we'll have the resulting matchup there. So game number 1 was Harmed versus Matze. And Matze corrected me and he said, "Hey, I won all my previous games, so I was 4-0. So sorry, we didn't get our graphics guru to correct it yet, but 4-0. Harmed 4-1. What did you think about this matchup? I had a lot of thoughts on this, obviously, because I practiced a lot with Harm, but what did you think about this going into it?
I mean, obviously it's going to be an uphill battle for Matza. Just there's not a lot of tools in Chorzard to really deal with what Ass is doing, but Chorzard is so fast. So you have the opportunity there, which is what we saw Matza really trying to do, and
Yeah,
there was
yeah, yeah.
some good interplay there, but just like really trying to get as much value, as much steal. I think the big thing for Matze especially was trying to stop key one for Harmed, right?
Yeah,
Like if
the
you can hold that
natural
key
key,
one
let's
off, then
say. Yeah.
even if you get the only natural key that Ass ever does, right?
Yeah, yeah. If it ever does it at all. Yeah.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
then even if you hold that one off, then even if Harm gets the perfect draw after that, you have a chance of at least one more turn to try and kind of do your last stuff. But Charizard not having a key cheat of its own to try to kind of combat that with is tough.
Yeah, so pretty much every turn that short start can get to check, you should take it. And every turn you slow as down, that's also a win-win. But a lot of the speed of the Amber gain is actually from steal, which
Yeah,
going into this matchup, obviously Harman and I knew if you don't make any Amber, what can you steal? You can't steal what's there. Obviously, sometimes you do make Amber because you're not gonna not play UFO uh, to not make Amber. It doesn't make any sense. Or
yeah,
sometimes you need to have some key cards removed. So I think it was heavily favored in Ass's favor. A fun thing is that these two players know each other quite well. The first time Metze came over to our locals in the Netherlands, we're like, "Wow, this German guy's coming over our nationals." We're like shaking, like, like, oh my God, he's coming to wreck us. And then he did wreck me actually in like round two with Schwarzart. Then to
Nice.
be finally stopped in the finals by Harmed, not on Asden yet.
Oh,
But on a different deck. So they have seen each other on a high level before. And I think that's also a reason why we got them to join the voice chat, which I think was pretty cool. If you haven't had a chance to listen and watch it back, uh, do that and maybe also provide some feedback if you want more of those kind of things or if it's distracting or not. But I found it quite interesting how these two players interact, a bit of the trash talk, the mind games, the insights. I think it was pretty fun. Did you listen to it, Aaron?
yeah, I was on for that. It's a little bit different. Like as a player
Yeah,
playing on TCO, you're
yeah,
not
yeah,
really
yeah.
used to speaking your words or what you're like going through as
You don't
much
have to
when you're
announce your
playing.
plays because it's in chat
Yeah.
anyway. Yeah,
But it was still very fun
yeah,
just to kind of hear, the players react to stuff and a little bit of the soul crushing when
yeah, yeah,
what
yeah.
you expect to happen happens and you didn't
Indeed,
want that. But
indeed. It's like, yeah, is it happening now? Yes, yes, it's happening. Not yet, but next turn. Yeah. So Harm does
yeah,
say it was 90-10 in Az's favor, and indeed that's also what happened. Surprisingly close game one. Um,
yeah,
if Matza was able to take one more amber away, it would have been 33% chance for UFO to hit key abduction. And it did actually hit the key abduction. It wasn't
yeah,
needed, but that was one of the games where like, whew, that was close. But mostly in
yeah,
practice as well, there's like short sort is 1 or 2 turns too slow. So even if
yeah.
it looks close, it's not because it's consistently that close. If that makes sense.
Which still says so much about Charizard just as a deck of like, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah,
Ass
yeah.
is winning on turn 5, and Charizard's been winning on turn 6 or 7
Yeah,
for a
that's
while
crazy.
now.
That's crazy. Yeah. So AOA is still there. AOA is
Yeah.
definitely still there. Um, so unfortunate for Matze, As took it, and that was the winner of game one.
Hmm.
Game number two, Mike versus GJ. Bandola versus Painted AI.
Yeah.
Um, who casted this one actually?
I did that one, right? Did I? Who did this one?
I think you did.
I don't remember what happened this week.
Wow. I know I watched it
It's
back
been like,
I watched it back in the morning because secretly, um, well, the As
this was
Bandola
me.
matchup is maybe not so super favored, but also like
Yeah.
Wodka Wodka is a very interesting kind of dynamic. So and GJ is very good at that one. He's proved it already.
Yeah.
Um, so that would have been very interesting. I don't spoil the result just yet. So I was secretly rooting a little bit for GJ also because, Europe, America, there's this continental rivalry, let's say.
That's
Um,
a small reason, maybe.
maybe.
Maybe more so. I honestly think either of these are going to be a tough matchup for Ash, just
Yeah.
because, like you said, we
Yeah.
saw GJ play Painted AI in another mirror match of the Wadka, and Painted AI is very good in the mirror
It's
match. Like
very
it's
good.
strong, and GJ was
Yeah.
playing super, super well with that matchup. So like, I this is yeah,
Whatever the
these are two
result would have
very
been,
scary
it
decks.
it, it would be super scary. But Bandola is also such a scary deck, especially against
Yeah,
Wodkas, because it wants to play Winds of Death, but you don't want to do it if you're giving Bryo and Cow back to your
yeah,
opponent, because then you're stuck. So this is another like kind of chess-like match where either GJ tries to get haunted super fast, play the Winds of Death with little value for Bandola. Um, but yeah, I think it was 2-0 for Bandola, wasn't it? In the end?
yes. This was
Yeah,
a 2-0 for
2-0.
Bandola, and it
Yeah.
was I mean, I think game one, Mike had like I think it was 5 unfathomable creatures by like turn 3, and
Yeah.
that was Bryo and Kalp, which
Yeah.
is just like that's gonna happen sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah.
But GJ this deck doesn't have a lot of creature control from hand, and what it does have is actions. So you don't see things like the Grim Reaper. You don't see things like
or like
what's the
this the
Brobnar guy,
Snippy or
Fiery Jark or whatever,
yeah,
or the Snippy. Yeah, you don't see
yeah.
some of those cards that at least give you a chance to deal with that. So
Yeah,
from
so
that point,
I
it's
think there
really
was a
uphill.
Witch of the Spore, but with a draw icon, so
Yeah.
maybe you want to play it for the draw cycle faster, but you want to hold it to discard for Kaup. But yeah, yeah,
In game two, I think we did get some more Witch of the Spore discarding, but
right,
again, you can
right.
only do that once, and you can't archive it because you
No,
can't play your other actions.
no, exactly. Yeah, yeah. So very,
um,
very tough when the Kaup Brio lockout comes down. The Witch Queen combo may be less relevant, or maybe if you get it early, it's relevant because you get a lot of Amber and you get the tools to set up the Brio Kaup lockout on
yeah,
the turn
which I think is
afterwards.
a little bit more where game two went. I think
Hmm.
the Brown Cap did end up coming down, but it was after there had been some Witch Queen stuff
Right,
going on.
right.
So there was just like already a lot of pressure, and then the
And
control
then
coming
on
down.
top of that, like, hey, maybe you
Yeah,
got your key abduction, but you're not gonna play it because it just gets canceled, and then I just ecto charge turn afterwards, right? So,
yeah.
um, well played by Mike. Moving on to the semifinals.
Uh, well played by both of those players.
Well
I
played
mean,
by
everyone in
both,
this tournament has
obviously.
been doing
Yeah,
well, but I
yeah.
think those two especially have been like Mike, we said before this stream started, has been working like crazy to
He's
practice
been
these
working
matchups and
his butt
stuff.
off. Yes, yes. Almost
GG,
like
I
he's
got
got,
to cast.
almost like he wants to prove a point or something. Oh.
He just wants to win. Nothing
Yes,
wrong with
that's
that.
right. Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah, yeah. So we've got Harmed and Mike battling it out in the first semifinals. Very interesting matchup. It's going to be a very fast match, probably in turns, but maybe the turns will be a bit slower. Where we saw Mats and Harm, the turns were like pop, 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 because there wasn't a lot of counterplay possible. But these two decks, I think you wanna. There's a lot more things to consider about when to play your creatures, when to hold your creatures, when to, um, there's a different route to victory for As in this way, and I think for
yeah,
Bandola as well. So I think game one for Bandola it was Witch Queen, get as much as Amber, try to lock out. Um, and then I think game two was more like protect my key cards from being stolen by the talent scout and not putting my creatures in the discard for BR Geist and just like this other game plan. And then the third game that Bandola played was again slightly different because I was worried about stopping the key abduction at the right moment. And now
hmm
again, you face a similar kind of deck. So maybe Mike has some experience already in this kind of matchup. Might give him an edge.
yeah. And this is something that I'm sure Harmed has been practicing this matchup, but it's hard to practice. Like you don't really get many other matchups that are like this, right? Bandola
No,
is a pretty unique
no,
deck
no.
in how it can just hit you from every side. Um,
It's a very
it's gonna
unique
be
deck. Yeah, yeah. It's a
yeah,
hot one, cats and dogs. You're right. And obviously, I've been practicing with Harmed, but the practice fatigue on Bandola hits hard because after like the 50th or 100th or whatever time you play the Witch Queen combo, we're like, okay, let's just assume that many Amber discards are available, and then do you win or not? And then you start again. Practice? No, 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 no. We never practice, right?
yeah.
So yeah,
But what you said there is very interesting, right? Where a lot of this matchup is going to be determined for the most part. There will still be decisions, but a
yeah,
lot of the most important decisions are the first couple turns,
yeah. The
right? And a lot of
mulligan
that
and
has to
the
do with,
first couple plays. Yeah.
yeah, probably Bandola's draws more than Ass's, right? Because Ass is
Yes.
just going to find its stuff with like the UFOs and
Yeah.
everything. It's
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
more of what are the first threats that
Yeah.
Bandola is giving you,
Yeah.
or is it giving you threats early enough?
Yeah. So in practicing also my own matchup versus Bandola, there were rare games where my health felt so clunky. Like, it's like what? But that was like one game out of 20.
Yeah.
So it's all about the mulligan. It's all about the first couple turns. Very interesting semifinal. You never want to play against either of these decks, honestly, because well, it's it just leads to like feel bad moments when you for Bandola you go into like sitting there for 5 minutes and it goes off, or As is like okay there's 18 cards in the archive and I know the key production is there and I can't do anything. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and it's some interesting stuff on just these are two of the most I guess like story decks from this season, right?
yeah.
Bandola was played at a lot of different Vault Tours, and Pastor Ass was played multiple times. So both of these decks are like
I think
they're two of the like most famous decks, right? Playing each
they
other now.
were played at the same Vault Tour, I think in Germany, but As was then still recently opened, like hours or something, or a day. And I think Bandola was there piloted by Cat Marrow, but Harmed helped
Mm,
me out in the chat there, but I think that's true. So Zeramis says why we need better Amber Skies deck is just finally ban GR from all competition. Move go. Yeah, Clipped Wings can do work. Titan Sentry can do work. Empyrean Charge. Like I think Riku's deck is maybe
this is where Riku wanted to be on this side of the
I
bracket.
know I this was my bane in the KFC Open Archon tournament. It felt so hard to play against it, but yeah, yeah. So this kind of like this meta where you expect people to run a lot of Vodka and you bring counter to it, but it still needs to do well against other decks. So thanks. Bandola was piloted by Cat Marrow and Captain Gill played as, but it had very little practice then because it was just
Mm,
opened. And as is a deck that is amazing,
yeah.
but it's even more amazing if you know how to handle it well. It does take some practice. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at the stats there, 3.6 amber control, like that's
Yeah.
almost enough where someone might look at it and be like, I don't know if I even want to try this.
Yeah,
So that's
exactly.
you
Yeah,
have to
yeah.
know what you're doing to be able to
Yeah,
get set up fast enough
indeed.
with that kind of
Indeed.
amber control, which
Look
we
at the
saw against
accolades as
short card,
well.
right?
The accolades on these two, by the way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like I said, these are the two decks to beat right now, I'd say,
Uh,
for the most part in competitive Archon.
yeah. Right. Game three. So we're moving on to the top right side. Cat Marrow, as recently just named, of playing Bandola versus Holy Stew, the Italian runner-up for the Vault Tour. Um, I thought going into this matchup that Pupilurp was maybe slightly favored um, because it can go so fast and there's
Yeah,
such little amber control in Cat Marrow's deck. Um, but you have to calculate in the mimicry and the multidimensional rescues and all that kind of stuff. Because even though it might not be in her deck, if it's in your deck,
yeah,
it's also in her deck, you know? So I think it's a really cool deck pick. And I have played against this deck Y, two-thirds of it at least, anyways, at the KFC sealed open. It's another awesome deck that was opened in a sealed tournament, like As was opened in a sealed tournament, and kind of discovered as is Y. Uh, yeah, so I think I did cast this one.
yeah,
Popular game one came out flying. I think turn
yeah.
two or three, I saw the Echo Fly go down. I was like, oh, oh, it just,
I think everyone said that. It's just like, oh,
yeah,
I guess we're doing this now.
yeah. So it really showed how fast it can be. And that was game one to Popular. Then game two was more of a nail biter. I think it came down to multi-dimensional rescue being there with a mimicry on the red line. And then we had a very intense game three as well, um, where there were some key moments where it could have gone a different way. But if you look at the final result, I think it was 3 keys to nothing. It looked like a
Yeah,
landslide victory, but it wasn't. Um, but honestly, a very good game. A lot of math was done by Holy Stew as well to not shuffle, playing to all the outs that were possible. Um, we didn't see one, but he managed to stall another turn and another turn and another turn. At least it went all the way. So in the end, Bandola did bring this one home.
Oh, not Bandola. Y.
Y, sorry. Y brought this
GR.
one
We can just
home.
say GR.
Yeah, GR. GR
GR
brought it
Bandola.
home.
Yeah, no, it was a really interesting match, and I feel like the matchup, some of the games we saw, I think like you said, that second game was the one that was like really the closest.
Yeah,
First game,
yeah.
Piplup or Poopaloop, I like
Piplup,
Piplup.
Piplup, Pokemon.
Piplup really
Yeah,
did what it needed to do to win, which made it less of an interesting game, right? Because it just burst like crazy. Egreg didn't
yeah.
have time to set up, and then game three was more Egreg doing the opposite of that with the Mars rule of six
Ooh,
stuff
yeah,
coming down,
yeah.
which is just brutal. But again, so I do. There have been some things about GR being, really annoying to see, and we're tired of it. I will say though, all three of the GRs that we've seen so far, that are in our top four, are all different, right?
They
Bandola
are
is
different.
different
Yeah,
than Ass, and Ass is
yeah.
different than Egreg.
True.
Egreg doesn't have any of the key cheat stuff. It's doing the multi-dimensionals, it's doing the mimicries. It does have the crazy Mars, but it actually has a crazier Mars, but without the key abductions compared to like
So
Ass.
small spoiler. It doesn't have a key cheat, but small spoiler.
Shh. Harms
Shh,
might hear
shh.
you say that.
So then we have our final game. The Wookiee versus Lorenzo. That just happened hours ago.
Mhm.
All different GR decks, all equally hated, says Armed. Well, yeah, yeah. Well, you
Who is
win.
playing one of the hated GR decks.
Yeah, yeah. You win often enough, your deck gets a little bit of what's the word? Um, Renown, or I don't know. I'll get back to
Yeah,
you when
that's one word for it.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Hate is another good word.
yeah.
Uh, it
Infamy,
becomes
infamy. That's what I
infamy.
was
Yeah,
looking for.
that's a good one.
Yeah. So Wookie versus Lorenzo. Um, Quite equal stats
Yeah,
going into the game actually. So it was going to be an interesting one, but I think a lot of people uh, looked at this, including me. I thought, I think Record Keepers is actually favored because of the two red line rotations, um, the Eddy, getting the tokens, getting them back. Yes, there's a four in here somewhere that can really speed up, but with the Desania that's not in this list,
yeah,
it throws another curveball to Arya, and that's just very difficult to deal with because it's a tough balancing act also to go to 6 amber, not even above, but you want to push hard with your expected amber because that's what Arya does. Did you get a chance to see it, Aaron?
yeah. I was watching this live, and I was one of the ones who actually thought the GR deck might have a little bit of an
No,
advantage
really?
here, but
Okay.
seeing the match, I understand why I was wrong. Uh, Riku is always kind to remind me of why I'm wrong about those things. um, I do think the Wookiee had some rough draws. I think there is a world where he's able to build enough of a board, especially with the Brobnar, to kind of really control things. Because again, the creature control on Record Keeper's side is not big, right? 6.6, and a lot of that is an Untamed, which is not necessarily how you want to go into if you need to do the Amber control. So what Wookiee needed to be able to do is get a big board and then keep getting to check to either force the Amber control or the creature control, but not both.
Yeah.
And I think there was just some rough draws there. I don't think we actually saw that Desania get played. And I think
No,
Wookiee
but the
only
threat of
archived two
it.
cards the whole, yeah, the
Yeah.
threat of it was huge.
Can we get a plot of all decks and the gen per turn? We will get some trivia at the end, and I think
So
um, we will get something like that later. Yeah. What were you
I
gonna say?
I do want to push back on that stat just a little bit. While it is true technically, part of that is because they've had so few turns total, right?
Yeah, sure. That
So
that that is
like
true. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
as
there are
not
stats that
necessarily
are
generating a bunch of amber, but finishing the game that fast is going to make that amber gen higher.
true, 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 true. So
But still,
there's all the stats are in the context of the tournament and the matchups.
yeah,
So where you to get, and there's some interesting facts that we'll get to as well that kind of point that out. But this one happened earlier today. Game one was a bit closer than game two, but game two, I think also a
it's
Wookiee knew
pretty brutal.
beforehand. I think it was making fun of it. It would be a quick 2-0, right? And then some maybe some sandbagging or actual some knowledge about the matchup. Yeah, who
Yeah.
needs Ember when you're making free keys? Yeah, Harmed. Yeah, well, if that's your game. Wookie definitely needed Ember, but he didn't want that much Ember that could have been easily stolen by the red line. But with the eddies taxing and then the red lines coming down later, it's just so difficult, and it proved to
One
be the Achilles heel. Yes.
Yeah, one thing that was interesting, and this is like it's so hard to know if you're not the one playing, but Wookiee did go to 7 on check multiple times within those games. And I wonder if it was just to try to force out the amber
To
control
bait it.
for as little value as possible, while it's still getting value, but like just trying to get it out of the way. And there we
Mm,
did see there was like 1 or 2 turns where we knew both of the red lines were in the discard. And that's again where I think the Wookiee just like he got to where he needed to be, where he could just burst, but then he just
right.
did not have the draws lined up
Yeah,
for it.
yeah,
And
with the Mars
it
indeed.
was
We were
rough.
like, the Mars should come
Yeah.
down now, and then maybe. Yeah, I did see some restraint with Brick Nasty
Yeah.
fighting, purposely running a different order to not make more Ember. So definitely was a conscious choice of going
Yeah.
to 6 or going to 7 because indeed you have to force your opponent's hand at one turn. But if the red lines aren't there, then maybe the two against all flags are there, and it's just
Yeah.
so tough, man. Especially if you're
It's a tough matchup.
if it's piloted by Lorenzo, which I think we can all agree is one of the best European players. So well-deserved victory, Lorenzo. Um,
Mm.
leading
Good catch there by Egad too. Just going to 7 makes it so they can't just stop the key easily with an eddy.
right, yeah,
So you at least
that's
get
true.
around that
That's
or you
true.
force
Yeah.
it. So yeah, very
7
good
might
call
be
there.
the magic number. Yeah. So these stats have not been updated yet because the game was just ended early. Snoopy did update the stats, but Riku let the man have some sleep as well. I think it's like 5 a.m. in the morning or something for him. I don't even know. Um,
He
yeah,
doesn't
so
sleep. We all know that.
no,
Come
no, he
on.
doesn't sleep. So Lorenzo Catmarrow, um, definitely an interesting matchup. I haven't
I'm
given it
super
too
excited
much
for this
thought.
matchup.
Um,
Uh, I think the amber control with the mimicry, like that back and forth, that chess
yeah,
match of like what's in the discard when and
yeah,
who's doing what. Like it the problem with record or with E Greg is without the mimicry, it's not doing a ton of amber control lights, right? So much of it is going to be
no.
in the Mars. And if you get the Mars going early, then that's great. Again, Record Keeper doesn't have great creature
Is
control,
there
but
Is there a line where you can play your red lines and then shuffle somehow consistently for Record Keeper so you don't allow the mimicry? Ah,
so Record Keeper. So we saw this when the 2 red lines were in the discard, is that he was actually able to make like 4 tokens in 1 turn to
yeah, and then
flip
just
way
really,
faster than we
yeah, right.
expected.
So
I think
indeed,
that'll be really
yeah.
big.
So you can red
Um,
line. It's in the discard. You know it's gonna red line again. Then you can do your second red line and then try to flip so that it's not possible to red line again with the mimicry. Um,
I I imagine there's going to be some turns where Lorenzo just has to play the second red line, hoping that the second interdimensional or
or MDR
yeah,
is not there,
interdimensional rescue,
or the
MDR,
NEP seed.
multidimensional.
So there's also a NEP seed, right? But I
Yeah,
think there's Mollymawk, and you said
there's a
Skulking
Mollymock.
Saboteurs. So the NEP seed can be troublesome, but there are ways to deal with it. Um,
We do have the Key Frog
the
though,
Key
and
Frog,
I think that
indeed.
could also
Yeah.
be that is not something that can be mimicry either, right? Key
No,
Frog is not
no.
an action, so that's
Nature
not something
Skull
that
can be.
Catmarrow can.
Nature Skull, is that useful in an Untamed turn or an Starline's turn? Is that
Well, so the thing with Nature's Call
Retrotechnician Lee?
is
Eh.
if you're digging for certain untamed cards, you can tokenize a bunch of cards and then bounce which ones you need back with the Nature's Call. So if you tokenize your Key Frog, you bounce back the hand, replay it
Yeah,
as a Key Frog.
obviously for Lorenzo Juso, I was just thinking for is it a useful
Oh, for the
mimicry
mimicry,
target?
yeah.
I don't think it's
Um,
that useful. No, that's higher value things there probably.
I mean Rebel, but that means you're not doing the rule of 6, which means
No,
you're not
so
getting
so
as much
you
value
would
anyways.
be you would not be able to go into Mars. You'd be able to go into
Oh yeah,
Starlines and
you'd be in the wrong
do
turn
your
anyways.
Retro Technician Lee, I guess. Get that
I
back
mean, he comes in ready, so
somehow.
that does give you more creatures back, which again,
Yeah,
creatures can be important in this
yeah,
matchup.
yeah.
The Till
Interesting
the
to
Earth
see.
will
It's
also
gonna be an
be.
interesting match. Very interesting.
You probably don't play Till the Earth in this matchup, right? You don't want to
No.
you want to get all those actions in the archive or in the discard. Yeah.
Zerimus says, love to see actual Ember control being part of this tournament.
I think this matchup is going to be super interesting. I'm really excited to see
Yeah, me
it.
too. I think it's going to be very interesting. So,
Not that Harm's match isn't going to be, but it
we
might not be.
we started out with this spread of sets: round one to round two to round three to round four.
Yeah,
Which set is the
lots of
most
crying.
dominant set in this tournament, do you think? I mean, here it still looked like, from the start, like,
Yeah.
yeah. So it was not a 3-to-1 ratio, maybe 2-to-1. Yeah, two to
Mm,
one, but the 3-to-1 in the end. It's also
yeah.
like how the draws happened and the MMs facing each other and Amber's guys, and of course, but still, um, yeah.
Yeah, the random bracket did make it a little bit interesting, but
Oh,
still a lot of
I see I may have messed up a
GR
little bit
dominance.
somewhere down the line in this
Uh-oh.
presentation, but that's okay. We'll fix it as we go. I really hope Prophetic Visions will bring back more of a control element to the meta. Me too. I think the doing something when a key is forged can really mess up key cheats, especially one that played two key cheats in a row. Not to name a specific deck, but Ass can easily do that. And then end your turn when you forge a key or something like that. Can definitely do
Yeah.
something. Um,
Or we've seen things that destroy the most powerful creature. Like, so
yeah,
if Bryo is your most powerful creature, you
yeah,
have ways to kill that. And I think that's like,
that's
as
huge.
far as we know, putting fate cards under a prophecy, like
Yeah,
there's nothing that interacts with that so far. So, and there's definitely nothing in older sets that are going to interact with
no,
that. So that should be something you can always do, regardless of what other control elements are on the
yeah,
board.
it'll be really interesting to see how that works. So this was the predictions ranking of after round one. Let me see if I think I did something here. Oh no.
Oh,
Oh no. Okay, don't mess with it.
we're all
It's
professional
fine.
streamers here. Don't worry about it.
So this is still good. I'll fix the predictions later. Um, Now we're here, and these are obviously the ones that should have been here, and they are gone. So fixed, fixed, fixed. We have AOA no longer with a perfect record. Um, so deck stats, same set match included. AOA
No.
still is obviously the best set from these statistics. You have to interpret it that way. There's no really other way to interpret these
Hmm.
statistics, right?
Well, so if you look at the game losses, even without if you're just looking at the game percent statistics, even on the
Mm-hmm.
upper one where there
Yeah.
isn't the same set,
Yeah.
it is still the highest.
Right.
But if you look at the match wins,
Hmm.
anyways, taking a little bit of a dive,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is understandable, but
Yeah.
still good to see it up there.
Still interesting. Interesting
TOC still
stats.
over 50%, but otherwise, yeah, GR being at the 72, 73% match percentage is pretty crazy.
Pretty crazy. Yeah. Then the team statistics. Again,
This is kind of painful.
started with so many people, and they just keep disappearing one by one. And now there's one team with still. Sorry, Catmare, I'll get out of the way. Um, or maybe I can just pretend to be in Team Future Side because that seems to be the team you want to be on
That seems to be
at
the
the
team you want to
moment.
be in. Yeah.
Two members still left, and there's even potential for a Team Future Side final.
Yeah. Should be very impressive.
Yeah, so there's a potential for a full European final, a full North American final, or a mixed one. It's
Full
also
GR
interesting.
final.
The GR final is definitely on the table. Um, yeah, so Netherforge Lions harmed. Best team ever. Uh, don't know who else is part of that team, but must be having great teammates helping him practice getting this far in the tournament. And then Hamburg Atlanteans for Lorenzo. So those three teams are still part of the race. When we look at the spread of where the players come from, a lot of NA, one SA, Europe and Asia, and a lonely Australian representing
Yeah.
Oceania. Then after the first round, big dive. then it looked like Europe was going super strong with 5 Europeans still in and 3 North Americans. The North Americans leveled the playing field, and I'm assuming they were both in the States. And if I got that wrong, I'm horribly sorry. And I
That
added
they are.
and I added the flags and arrows for our American friends if they don't know where where in Europe
I
these
appreciate
countries
that.
are. Yeah. If you give me the states of Mike and Camaro, maybe I'll also won't be able to point them out. But anyway, Harmed is from the Netherlands and Lorenzo's from Germany. 2 Europeans, 2 North Americans, still in it to win it. Um,
Mhm.
so yeah, interesting to see. It's fair. It's fair. Yeah.
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 No, I
So
mean this is awesome to see, right? We're
yeah,
gonna get to see
Netherlands
kind of
and Germany here. There you go. And this is the United States, I believe. I think. Yeah. Um, so
roughly.
we come to the trivia section, which is a bit new.
All right.
And again, I made these from Snoopy's data. So Snoopy's really the one to thank for bringing these things here, or to blame if they're wrong. So they're
What
not
if
wrong.
the data's right and I get the answer wrong? Who do I blame then?
Yourself.
Magic
um,
Duck. Got it. Got it.
Magic Duck. Okay, yeah. So that's why we'll be capturing all these game logs. At the end of the tournament, we'll probably get a bit more trivia. In the media team, Snoopy's been spitting out facts that are quite interesting, so now we want to bring them here. So let's start with trivia
Ooh.
question number one. What is the most played card in this tournament? So the context of total plays in this tournament with the decks that are there. What do you think?
Well,
Cats and
so
Dogs
we
says
got a
junk.
junk and cat box.
I know there's
I
one not fair, Arm says.
I think I would say it's between A and C. I think A is a pretty good guess because both A and B are in GR and GR and in they're in all three sets, aren't they? Tokens and Junk's not
Uh,
in tokens. It's in
not
here
not
somewhere.
sure.
Is it's
I
in
see
Amber Skies.
Forecast goes with C, Captain Gill goes with C.
I
Um,
I think Rebel is the guess because of the bounce, right?
yeah,
And the
because of
combo.
the key abduction, the bounce. I think As is to blame for this, and so is Egreg, and
Yeah.
so are some other decks. But 125 Rebels played. Actually, quite close to the junk and the in here somewhere, with 100 and 107. But yeah, the Rebel is just such a great card, especially if it can bounce it with key abduction. It generates so much amber. Um,
But here's the thing is Rebel is only in 9 of our 32 decks.
oh,
Whereas Junk Restoration is in, let me see this really quick,
probably more. I figure
14.
you in 14, so 9 decks with Rebel, 14
You
decks
see
with
in here,
junk. Yeah, in there somewhere also must be quite a few of them. I figure you fire junk early every game, you have it. Yeah, Rebel also being
in
played
here
in
somewhere is
Roll.
in 13. So Junk Restoration is
Ah,
in the most decks,
right,
but
right.
Rebel has been played the most. Yeah, we did have a
Okay.
little bit of Rebel help in the woe. It was
Yeah,
only one
true.
deck, right? I think only one deck had.
Hmm, could be.
I don't remember.
So, if you paid attention, you probably noticed, but what do the 4 decks have in common that reach the semifinals? So, either they're all undefeated, they all have Untamed, or they're all Vietnamese decks.
Do they all have Untamed?
I don't know. It could be. You tell me. I know the answer.
I'm gonna go with Harmed.
You're
Harmed,
gonna go with
Harmed knows what
Harmed?
he's talking
So
about.
Harmed says Untamed is the best house. C for show, Vargas. Yeah, they're all Vietnamese. Has to be right.
Wait,
B,
are there
Captain
actually
Gill.
no Vietnamese?
I don't think so. No. Shh.
Riku's stocks are plummeting. We
Yeah,
gotta do
Riku
something.
stocks are plummeting, and Untamed is OP.
Oh,
Crazy,
Lorenzo,
right?
welcome in.
So yeah, Untamed
Yeah,
OP. Yeah, Lorenzo, you
that is
called it.
actually pretty interesting, right?
It
Because like
is. Yeah,
they don't all have Geistoid. They don't all have like
Mars.
Logos
No,
would have been the old one. They don't all have Mars, but yeah, all have Untamed.
Untamed. Untamed's the place to be. Least played pod. The least played pod of Ass is Untamed. That's true though. Yeah.
Yeah. That's also true of like me, right?
Yeah,
Just didn't
yeah,
make it this far,
yeah.
unfortunately, but Untamed in that doesn't do a whole lot.
So here we
Ah,
go.
come on.
Which house pots generate the most amber? So you have each pot separately based on amber generation, and this is then averaged across all decks that are in the tournament across all rounds, I imagine.
So this is what they've actually generated. Like
So
when a
per
player calls
turn,
a turn,
per turn.
if it's a Skyborn turn, how much amber do they generate per Skyborn turn called?
Yes,
That's what we're saying? Okay.
yes, that is what we're saying.
Oof.
So I'm seeing Harm says Mars, Cats and Dogs says
So
Mars, Captain Gale A
I think
because
Mars.
K key abduction is counted as amber generation. Correct, correct.
Wait, key abduction is counted as
Yeah,
amber
so
generation?
so in the stats, like key
So
abduction, if you cheat a key, whatever is deducted from the key cost is counted as amber generation, because technically it kind of is. So every key cheat that you cheat for free
I
is
don't like
6 amber.
that.
How are you else are you going to count the value of key abduction? So it's what it is. So with that knowledge,
Yeah,
would you change your answer to Equidon maybe?
I would say Skyborn
Skyborn?
if I didn't believe key abduction should count as amber generation. I would say Skyborn, but
So Mars 1.66 per turn, Skyborn 1.57, and Equidon in a third with 0.94. A pretty huge gap between Mars and Skyborn and the rest of the field.
yeah,
The
I think if
single
it's
U, yeah,
actually
yeah,
like
yeah.
generating amber, like putting amber into your pool, Skyborn is huge. And again, we had like how many red lines were in the right side of the bracket? It was
Yeah, a
like
lot of them.
five
Yeah.
or six. So and those have all been played for value pretty often.
I
So
think Cats and Dogs says Skyborn maybe has the single Aegis turn. I think that might be true. But actually, on
yeah.
an untamed turn, it might have been the most huge
Oh yeah,
Skyborn turn in a way, because I think that's the beauty of it. MDR into mimicry, or yeah. So maybe it was a Star Alliance
Star
untamed
Alliance turn.
Skyborn, whatever turn. How's that even counted? That's
Well, but
crazy. To copy the red
how
line,
would that still have generated more than the single Witch Queen turn?
I
Like
think I think it's
he
still
generated
like
like
22
28
amber.
amber on that
Yeah,
turn.
yeah, yeah. We would have to look at
It,
that, but yeah,
in this last matchup, Mike Fooney generated so much on one of
yeah,
those
true,
turns.
true, true, true. Now, out of the
Oh gosh,
255 keys
that's
that
gonna
were
make me sad.
forged in this tournament in total, how many of them were key cheated? So 20, 50, or 70?
Oof. 70 is closer to. That's
Harm
still
says
not
50? Question
closer to a
mark.
third.
Cats and Dogs says 20.
100%.
Zermis says 100% D. Captain Gill says A, 20.
I'd probably do the 50.
Harmsys has it more than 20. So Ega goes for C, Vargas goes for C. Um, the answer is 50. 50 key cheats. Quite a lot, but not
That's
70.
still a lot,
Yeah, still.
but if
So
Ass has actually done 20 of those, then that's also very impressive.
As did not do 20. It doesn't have 20 keys total. Yeah, it's got a lot of them. Yeah. So which deck cheats the most? Is it Bendola? Is it Record Keeper or Ass? I think
How are we
this
defining
one.
cheating?
That's why I left this ambiguity in there, and I was wondering how you were going to answer this.
Like, why is this a question?
Why is this a question? Well, what is cheating? No, indeed.
Like, is it house cheating, or I'm
House
assuming
cheating.
this is
So
key cheating?
so I left the ambiguity in there on purpose, but it's key cheats is in the answer, and um, it is as um, by a mile. By a mile. So every 3 turns, almost, as
Oh, that's per
cheats a
turn.
key
Oh gosh.
per turn. Yeah.
I thought that was per game for a second. I was like, oh, you
No,
gotta
no,
step
no.
those up,
Per
Arms.
turn. Per turn. One key every 3 turns. That's insane.
That's insane.
And Bandola has like 0.11, but if people concede before you can ecto, then it skews the key frog actually. So Record Keeper plays a bit of the long game, but does manage to still key cheat sometimes, which we think it's more relevant apparently than it is in the tournament so far.
Oh, that's the key frog
Yeah,
in Record Keeper. Yeah, I was trying to think of what that was too.
So now, which card has the most key cheats to its name?
I mean,
I mean,
I want it to be mimicry, but I know it's not. Ectocharge probably has more key cheats than I would expect. There have been a decent amount of those in this tournament just because of how
yeah,
much GR has been in there,
yeah.
but it's got to be key abduction, right?
So obviously everyone goes for a C, and we have the key cheat stats here. So Mimicry has managed to key cheat a key. So
Only one though.
there is a key cheat, technically in EGREG, but not in the following matchup. So yeah. Ecto has 11, but if you look at the per count cheats, then key abductions is like way higher than um, any
That's
other
like per
card.
card in the tournament, right? So
Yeah, so like
28
every
key
key
cheats
abduction
out of
there is
seven
has
cards.
cheated
Yeah,
4, as opposed to
that's
exit charge is
crazy.
like 1 point something and spooky charge 1 point something, and you know, um,
Yeah.
yeah, not close.
Huh. It's
Yeah,
almost like that card shouldn't have been in GR.
yeah, maybe.
Almost.
After all these questions, are you prepared to worship our Lord and Savior as well? Worship or loathe. It could be. Well, it's a. I guess it's close in most cases. So those were the, let's say, trivia questions. There was also some interesting facts still. Um, uh, so 3 of the 4 top decks have the most cards played per turn. So Bandola as an Egreg. So 3 out of 4 decks that are in the top 4 are the top 3 decks of cards played per turn. That's an interesting
I
fact,
mean,
isn't it?
that is interesting. It kind of makes sense, especially like Egreg. Like we said, it has so much recursion, and you can always
Yeah,
recur cards of the same house and just play them again. But you're also doing the house cheating with that, so makes sense. Ass, of course, is doing the rule of 6
yeah,
stuff
yeah.
plus. Um,
It's almost as if playing more cards per turn is good.
I
Yeah.
mean, there are some decks that can play a lot of cards and do not
Most
much.
options, most value. Yeah. So people are going to go after this tournament when all the statistics are presented in a nice way, which we will try to do. And again, Snoopy, you're a hero for real. You're going to look at your collection and you're going to filter on these things. You're going to find the best deck according to these stats. You bring it to the next tournament and fail miserably.
Yeah.
Or win, but we'd like to know. Right, next interesting fact. Again, this was maybe spoiled in chat, but 3 of the top 4 decks also have the most amber generated per turn. And again, the same 3
Hmm.
culprits.
Egreg is actually surprising on that one. Not that it's like a slow deck, but I kind of feel like there are some decks that would have, especially some of
Well,
those Amber
those
Skies,
two
like
red
even
line
the deck that I just beat,
rotations,
right?
those two red line
Yeah,
rotations definitely helped that were not in Egreg's deck. Um, which is so cool actually. That you're generating the
yeah.
most amber with cards not in your deck. Um, that's probably true even. Yeah. Uh, So most optimal value, or just play Dr. Express, Rebel, or Witch Queen and Kangafan. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So easy. Yeah, find it in your collection and win. Yeah, sure.
At least I can be impartial about these decks. I didn't put this together.
I like all my top 4 decks equally. Yeah, sure. So there was another interesting trivia fact, and I copied this from Excel. I selected some of them that were maybe relevant for this, but over 7 matches, As has maintained a key cheating pace of 1 key every 3.22 turns. If As was to not cheat for 15 turns, the second most key cheating deck will not even catch up.
That's insane.
That's crazy. It's really crazy to me. It's the double key
Interesting. Isaac
abduction there. Yeah, it's just.
Bean was higher than Painted AI. I would have thought Painted AI was a little bit
Yeah, so
higher on
Bean
that.
only had 2 games. So again, You have
Okay.
to take all these statistics, or it was, I think, 3 games, right? So all the statistics are in the context of the tournament, of the matchups, and some decks have more games than others. So if you played a longer tournament or you collected them over a longer period of time, they might be more accurate with a bigger variance of opponents. But in the context of the tournament, this is what it is.
Yeah.
Um,
And
Painted
Snoopy
was a
Sam
very
painted
close. Oh
was
yeah,
very
yeah,
close. So it makes
very
sense.
close to
But
it. That makes sense. That
well,
makes sense.
interesting.
Yeah.
All right, Harmed. So here's the challenge. See if you can do it.
Can you win without? I think there's no way because he doesn't make it to the next round. He's gonna have to
Also,
forge 2 keys by turn 5 with a cheat.
it's kind of the
Otherwise,
interesting question is can he win with the Mars past a Brio? Because Brio will stop you from being able to do the key cheat. Can you win past that? So you might actually not have a choice to try to win that way,
it could
but we'll
be,
see.
could be, yeah. So this is also interesting. So Tifakari, despite being eliminated in round 2, can still win most cards played.
That's insane.
like, like what?
I mean, if you watch those games, it makes more sense.
Yes, yes, it does.
Tifakari just again is one of those decks that can play so many cards. It's still a
Yeah,
very good deck, but it's
yeah,
not gaining as much value
no,
as something like
no,
Acer Bandola is, by also playing a lot of cards, but not quite that many.
yeah, yeah,
When
indeed.
Tivakari like probably has the record for the most cards drawn too, right?
Oh, oh,
Like
sorry, sorry, sorry.
it's gotta be drawing just like
Yeah, I didn't get those things in, but yeah,
interesting. So it's not
interesting.
the only stat that matters.
It's not the
It's
only
playing
stat
the
that
most cards.
matters. No, no, it is. Yeah, it's pretty insane, so many cards. Those were the facts for now. I think people seem to enjoy this section. I enjoy
It's good stuff.
the random facts that Snoopy manages to conjure up. So I think we'll do a bit more on this, maybe in the final recap, or we'll do something like it's very interesting. All the data nerds will have their hands full of like pulling it apart, finding the best pods, decks, or whatever. I'm one of them, so I can just say that. So yeah, the only thing left is the new bracket. Um,
Let's see it.
so this was where we started with again all these amazing players, especially someone around this side. I don't know. Got eliminated round 1, round 2, round 3.
On the other side too, there's an even faster elimination from our final ring group here.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so we have Harmed and Mike Ferney, Cat Merrow and Lorenzo scheduled for the coming week. We're not sure if we want to move the final to, let's say, the Sunday or a bit closer than, let's say, another full week. It all depends on how fast these players can schedule their matches, how much practice time they still want after that. So we'll do it in collaboration with the 4 players that are still in the tournament. Um, we don't want to leave that much space between matches because we don't want to keep the tension going a little bit. So it's all going to be a bit like feeling on what's possible,
Yeah.
what we can do.
It, just looking at these matches, it is going to be a little bit tricky because we're
Yep,
crossing
yep.
time zones
Two
for both
times.
of these, which is again exciting that we have people from all over.
Yeah.
But both Harm and Mike Fooney are going to be in very different time zones. That one might be the tougher one. Cameron and Lorenzo are going to be a little bit closer, I believe. But that means there's a better chance that
Capmaro's
these
the
have to
East
wait
Coast and
until
Mike is
next
a bit more
weekend.
West Coast or Midwest. What?
I think actually I might be no, they might both be East Coast now that I
Okay.
think about it. I
I don't
don't
know.
know.
So
I'm
yeah,
in Texas, so I
let's see.
don't know. I just
So, um, that brings us a bit to the end. Again, like
yeah,
almost an hour still. We managed to fill the time somehow, but
yeah.
these trivia facts took up some time, but I think that was warranted. Um,
Yeah, those are super fun, especially since we didn't quite get the new predictions kind of finalized and everything,
yeah.
right? I think we'll have all that from Algernon
Yes.
tomorrow. So be on the
Yes.
lookout on the Discord for that. We'll get the new ones up and then we'll announce who is in the lead and everything, all the scores.
Indeed, and there's still stuff to be gained. And even if you think like, well, there's only two matches to predict, it's 50-50. I can just look at who's ahead of me and just copy that answer. But no, 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 no. Riku probably wants to spice it up a little bit, saying it's a 2-0, a 0-2, or a 1-2, or a 2-1. Um, and that can give you a bit more of uh, yeah, a bit more options to vote for you who you think or what you think is going to be the final score for the semifinals. Thanks both.
Yep, and we'll
Amazing
have
stream.
those
Thanks Harmed. Enjoy your holiday. Break a leg, but not really. So I think
breaking ass.
he's skiing. Breaking
Don't do
ass.
that. That would be
No,
miserable.
don't do that. Um, yeah. So and with that, Aaron, also thank you for joining once more.
Yeah. Thanks so
I
much for hosting this. These are
yeah.
a lot of work. I know both you and Riku put together for these, and Algernon too, and Snoopy. Like, there's so much work going into
So
this,
much
and
work
it's
behind the scenes
awesome
that
to
people
see.
don't even see. Indeed. Yeah. So we're gonna close it off right now. Maybe any final words of wisdom, Aaron?
Wisdom. I didn't even play in this. I obviously don't have too much to say. Don't break an ass. I think is probably a good.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, indeed. All right, and
but
Snoopy will post some more stats on the Discord later. I think everyone will
nice.
appreciate that one. There's a statistics channel, I think, even in the Discord, where you can eat your heart out and you can look at all of them. Um, and have a
And
good
to the
evening.
players, yeah, we'll have your matchup rooms made right after this. I'll get on those,
Yes.
so be on the
So
lookout
have
for
a
that
good
too.
evening, a good morning, a good afternoon, wherever you are, and see you later.
Later.
Bye.